Never seen Barbarian.
Look, I'm really sorry that we got disconnected earlier, but
Giant sewer zombies, gallons of blood, and a visit to the Resident Evil set from IGN for Zach Creggor's new take on the Resident Evil franchise that's loosely based on RE2. So without further ado, folks, if you end up enjoying this video today, give it a like, smash that subscribe button, and let's react to that trailer.
In a zombie apocalypse, Grace and Leon have you covered, bro.
I mean, right now you want to do a knock-knock joke. I wouldn't actually think of this as a Resident Evil type of movie. It looks like any generic horror movie, right? I like the blood red writing, very cool. So in every classic Resident Evil game, you're going to come across storage containers with weapons and ammunition, medical supplies. Makes complete sense. So this is a nice touch.
I'm in like a seriously fucked up situation right now.
So right now you got coming up a touch of Sam Raimi's Evil Dead, the way the camera moves, the way the corpse moves. Very cool. Oh my god! Oh shit!
I love you.
Holy moly, man. As a Resident Evil trailer, as a horror film trailer, it works really effectively. But again, nothing tells me it's a Resident Evil film. There's no Chris, there's no Jill, there's no Claire. There's no Rebecca Chambers, anybody that, or Barry Burton even. There's none of those characters. Ada Wong, obviously, if you had her in there, then you'll know it's like a Resident Evil film. I think what Zach Creggor is trying to do, the director of Weapons, is to really add his signature stamp on the genre. So I kind of have to give him credit for it. Again, the bad wallpaper. I don't know if this is like early 90s, maybe the late 80s. It would probably be early 90s that this film is set in. They haven't actually really clarified that yet, but all fingers are pointing to this could be a very interesting film because it's going to be released a month before Clayface from Warner Brothers. So I'll be very curious to see what they actually say in regards to that. Now from IGN, this vision of Resident Evil stems from Zach Creggor, director of recent horror hits Barbarian and Weapons, but also, crucially, a longtime lover of the Capcom video games. So much so that he remembers his first steps into its world fondly and has carried on that connection ever since. So one thing to glean from this article at IGN is that Brian, the guy you saw running away in terror and manning up in the middle of the trailer, doesn't have the hair flicking qualities of Leon S. Kennedy or the stoicism of Chris Redfield. He's the complete opposite of that. He's almost like a mamsel in distress, to quote the often used phrase for men who almost act like women in these situations. But we're going to give it the benefit of the doubt. I kind of like what I've seen here so far. But back to the IGN article, folks.
I have been honored with the prodigious power from the great Lord Sadler. I've been expecting you, my brethren.
No thanks, bro.
Brian is a normal guy thrown into a world quickly catching fire around him. It's like if I were thrust into a Resident Evil video game, the director Creggor quips, I'd be totally unequipped. I'm not good with guns, I'm totally out of shape. It will just be me panicking from one situation to another. What he's saying is you haven't got the lean athletic ability of Leon Scott Kennedy or the buffness of Chris Redfield, which again, it's not a bad thing. I think what Zach Creggor is trying to do here is do his realistic, almost grounded version of Resident Evil, which makes complete sense to me in that respect, because other iterations we've seen where you've got Wentworth Miller from Resident Evil being Chris Redfield and he's just being Chris Redfield. You might as well call it cosplay at this stage. And even Albert Wesker, who looks pretty good in the Paul S. Anderson films, but again, It's just done for fan service. So again, what Mr. Creggor talks about here, being an out of shape, regular, everyday kind of guy, it sounds good. It kind of reminds me of Bruce Campbell when he was in the early Sam Raimi Resident Evil films. Not to mention the fact that, is this Die Hard with zombies for a new generation of horror fans? It has that element for sure, but let's get back to this IGN article, you fools. There's no shortage of creatures on show either, with some taken from the games and others new, exciting inventions. Creggor's idea is to root each design in what theoretically could happen to a human if it were to fall victim to the T-virus, without ever crossing too far into the campier moments the games often lean into, which is to say no Mr. X or Nemesis, for example, whose tiny hats, oversized trench coats and skin-grafted missile launchers wouldn't quite mesh with the ever so slightly more grounded nature of the world Creggor is constructing. Now, I do wonder if this film is a mammoth success, whether Creggor will be signed on to do maybe a couple of more sequels to give us a trilogy, and then from that point onwards someone else takes over the helm of directing more Resident Evil movies. Then you might get characters like Ada Wong, Jill Valentine, Claire Redfield, Chris, Leon, etc. all popping up in individual or maybe group ensemble adventures. I think I'd quite like that, to be honest. Now, the last thing I want to conclude here, folks, from Simon Cardy's IGN article is the following. I left the set of Resident Evil convinced that this latest attempt at a translation to film is in great hands. Not that Creggor's track record to date hasn't already achieved that, of course, but my confidence is assured because of that clear love he has for the video games. Considering his two wholly original projects that preceded it came as a surprise that he'd want to dip his toes into the choppy seas of an established IP next, especially one with such a mixed movie history. Don't forget Netflix as well.
About the way I was that the heartbreak changed me.
What the fuck is a golem?
As Resident Evil, but that's not the way Creggor necessarily sees it, and from what I've seen, that's Simon Cardy, not me, it looks more than a cut above any previous adaptation of the series. Time will obviously tell, but all signs point to Resident Evil successfully finding a new home for its horrors on the big screen when it arrives on September the 18th, 2026. It looks like a slick, economically made movie from the teaser trailer that we have seen, and I think maybe when we see a full-blown trailer, then we can actually sit back, raise our hats, raise our glasses, and maybe our asses, and decide for ourselves whether this will be a big hit, because honestly, when it comes to the marketing of this film, you're going to have to mention Barbarian, weapons, everything else Zach Creggor has done so far just to entice you silly bully woolies to walk through that door with your bag of popcorn, your big gallon glass of Coke, and maybe choke to the horrifying action scenes that you'll see before your very eyes. And on that one, ladies and gentlemen, if I were you and if you were me, make sure you say subscribed to my channel, make sure you hit that notification button, and I will catch you catching me for the return of the next video.
Right? YouTube's newest hero is here to save the day. His name, Kung Fu Hot Dog.